because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
Welcome back to the Goat Track, everyone, the podcast about golf and golf-adjacent stuff, mostly from Africa. Playing a 2-ball this evening. Great to be joined by my guy, JDV. How's it going up there on the hill of the crest?
Terence, slightly frustrated. Got here at 8 o'clock and spent the last exactly 12 minutes freaking out about my headphones, which I couldn't get to either connect to my phone or my laptop or not stop working when my voice started working. Technology is a bit much for me.
It was pretty entertaining. I could see the pot slowly boiling. I could see the temperature rising on your face as you were making your way through various different tech options.
Yeah. The thing is, I've got these headphones on my ears. Otherwise, you would have seen the steam coming out. So it would have been like those, those teapots that you put on gas that like a, and you can like hear them whistling that out the side of the earphones. Yeah.
No, I could see it coming. So, you know what? But I'm proud of you. You troubleshooted your own tech issues. So, I mean, that's progress. JDV, out of interest, what are you sipping on there this evening? I see you had a nice little glass of red wine in your hand. What are you working your way through this evening?
A tea bag. I've already worked my way through a pretty, I would say, cartoonishly sized glass of Glencarlo, which was actually a very, very delicious red that Kath got for a weekend away that she was having with her mates. Then didn't end up busting out the wine, so I brought it home. So treated myself to that. But the bottle's done. Kath and I had it for supper. So I've also got myself a little Baines whiskey in the chamber. So I'll have that once my last sip of wine is done.
Oh, awesome, man. Yeah, well, that's actually well timed because I actually have poured myself a little whiskey here as well. Nice. And I was quite delighted to find a bottle of Three Ships bourbon cask. Are you familiar with that? Have you had that one before?
Isn't Three Ships the super cuck whiskey, or is it like the bourbon cask like the
that's always
version of it? It's like no, Pinnacle Ball is cuck, but have you played with like the Pinnacle Gold Standard, which is like one below Pro V?
Exactly. It's basically like the best version of the top flight. No, so Three Ships has a whole range. I mean, most people relate Three Ships to that bottom of the range one that we used to drink when we were at university, with whatever pennies you rub together, which I think is called the Three Ship Select. But they have a
when they say select, you select it when there's nothing else to select.
I think it's basically literally what's in the bottom of the barrel when they finish brewing all the other ones.
Scraping the barrel.
Yeah. But they've got a 5-year and a 10-year, and then they have the bourbon cask. The bourbon cask is the one they like mature it in old bourbon casks, literally. So they buy the casks from like America, from Jack Daniels and those guys, because those guys, they only ever use their casks once for a single maturation process, and then they get rid of them. And they buy the barrels from them, and then they mature this. In fact, Baines does a similar process actually as well, because Baines is also made by Three Ships as well. It's made in the same place, same distillery. Yeah, and this bourbon cask is hell of a nice, I must say. I have no idea where it came from because it's actually quite expensive, relative to the Select series, put it that way. But I actually did a tour once of that distillery. It's in Wellington. I think it's called the James Sedgwick Distillery or whatever. I mean, it was actually pretty awesome, eh? Like it was, I mean, as distilleries go, I mean, I haven't been to that many distilleries, but it was, I mean, you get all the whole industrial side of the process, but they've got the most awesome tasting room there that they take you into. And it's lekker. Can highly
Is it
highly
similar?
recommend.
Is it similar to wine tasting where you expected to sort of spit it out? I mean, in fact, probably more expected to spit it out than with wine, because I mean, if you drinking a bunch of neat whiskey in a whiskey tasting, I imagine you must be pretty fraught by the end of it.
So we basically were pretty fraught by the end of it, and no, there was no expectation to spit any of it out. In fact, the guy who was doing the tasting for us, after we'd made our way through their full range, he said, "Listen, guys, I actually just want to go into the back quickly. I want you guys to I want you to taste this and tell me what you think." And he came obviously basically from the lab, like from the like where they were concocting new blends, I guess, and literally came out with like a test tube, like this blank, like massive, like beaker, and was like, I want you guys to taste this. So we were all like, whoa, okay. But by that stage, you're like 4 or 5 whiskeys down. So we were like, yeah, let's go for it, whatever. Anyway, we did this tasting of like 3 like experimental blends that they were doing. And like 2 of them were like almost like blew our heads off. We were like,
What, like in a like very tasty, or just this is pure ethanol?
Yeah, we were like, maybe the guys need to work on those ones. But he said no, they're still early in the process or whatever it is. And then the third one was incredible. So it was quite cool seeing like the behind the scenes process there. Don't you find it a bit weird with those whiskey tastings and wine tastings, because you very quickly show how amateur you are, or like how little you know. Like, I don't know, I do at least. So Kath and I, we had our honeymoon in Hermanus just after we sort of came out the lockdown, and we went to the Heelville and Arda Valley, which is that wine place in Hermanus there. And we did this wine tour, and the first place we went to was the, God, I can't remember it now. It will come to me. But really nice wine farm. I want to say Ataraxia, but that was the second one we went to. Sorry, it'll come to me. But if you can remember the name of the second wine farm you went to, then you definitely
and the one after we went to Creation as well. And but
is it
anyway,
not Delheim? Is Delheim not in that? No, Delheim's in Stellenbosch.
Newton Johnson was the wine farm.
Newton Johnson, yes.
So we went to Newton Johnson, and this is now the first. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning tea, and like I think the lady there was like one of the owners. So we got there, we like knocked on the door, we're like, sorry, are you open? She was like sort of doing the books or whatever at the table. She's like, yeah, come in, I'll just do the wine tasting for you. So Kath and I sat down, and like genuinely, she was pouring like half a glass per tasting. Now this is at 10 o'clock in the morning, first wine tasting. We were like, okay, let's go. Also, no spitting any of that wine out. We were just slotting it, and they would be in there for like an hour and a half, and we had like a driver there that was taking us to the next one. And now they start like bringing out like their Pinot Noir and pouring it, and we're like, nah, I don't really like it, so like throw that bit away. Anyway, it turns out the like half a glass that we threw away was like $1,000 a bottle of wine that we had been bought. Anyway, at like 11 o'clock, we rolled out of there. Kath and I were finished, and still had like 6 wine farms to get to. Needless to say, it was quite a long day. We ended up doing like a meal tasting at Creation, where they give you like, so anyway, I thought it's like a 6-course meal. So and Kath's vegetarian, so they only had like the meat menu. It's one menu. So I said, oh, it's fine. We'll six meals or 6 courses. But I mean, I'm not big into fine dining. So anyway, they bring these things out. So Kath and I will just share it. Kath, you have the bits without the meat on. Well, anyway, the bits without the meat on, when like the bit itself, like the entire course is about 1 centimeter squared. It's very difficult to split like something the size of a cornflake into 2 and make sure that none of it has meat on it. So it looked like we were performing some like brain surgery trying to split some of those courses up to give Kath some chow. And by the end of it, now you can just think, I'm like, okay, well, these 6 courses, we've had a lot of wine, we'll line our stomachs a bit, we won't be that bad. Fuck, I was hungry after that, those 6 courses, particularly because I was trying to split out the veggie bits to give to Kath. Anyway, not a good look when you also trying to like look like you belong, and you try to split your 6-course meal. Anyway, not good. Lots of wine.
That's when you need a scalpel with you.
Yeah. You need basically like the robotics, the very micro, what are the like the nanobots to try and split the stuff out.
That's when you sort of like, sorry, you guys don't do like a toasted bacon and cheese, do you, by any chance?
They'll be like, yeah, we do. It's about 500, $600 for a deconstructed toasted and cheese.
Yeah, and it comes out and it's like
Yeah.
this big. It's like the size of a Provita.
Yeah, and it's actually deconstructed toasted cheese. So the toast is on like one plate, and it's basically just some flour and like a bit of water and some egg.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no. Listen, I'm exactly the same. Hey, at those wine farms, I just nod and I pretend like I can taste and smell all the things that they tell me I should be. And yeah, I'm often the one going sort of going, this is delicious or whatever, and then the guy's like, yeah, that's like our cheapest wine.
Yeah,
and then
like, I'll take 6 of those.
spitting out the like expensive stuff. Like,
Yeah.
So
we
I
had
don't
one.
know.
Sorry, last story on this one. There was a mate of ours. I think we had Freeland List when we were students, and anyway, the guy comes and he gives this long spiel about their flagship wine and how this is the one that they export and won all these awards. So he pours it, and now the one girl that was part of our sort of group, she was flying by this stage. Doesn't really drink that much wine. So anyway, he's like, so just have a taste and see if you can taste the berries and like the taste of leather and burnt bacon or whatever it is. And anyway, she takes a sip and he's like, so what do you think? And she's like, yeah, this one makes me go, nah. And you're like, oh shit.
we may have spent too much time here.
Yeah, we'll see ourselves out.
Yeah. Talking about the Western Cape, so we were in a very roundabout way. We were talking about the Western Cape. I'm just we're just buffering a little bit here. Have you got me fine on that on your side there?
Yeah, 100%.
Your video,
all good.
Your video is frozen. On my side. Not sure what's going on, but anyway, maybe it's the bourbon cask that's just kicked in on my side.
Yeah, it's actually not buffering; it's just your brain.
But yeah, we both sort of did trips to the Western Cape at different times this year, and played a bit of golf. And I thought it'd be interesting to maybe kick over a few of the courses that we played and just chat about those experiences. Look, from my perspective, this is not a deep dive into like we've done previously, where we do a deep dive into a golf course. This is going to be very surface level takes on the experience and the golf and that. I'm hoping you bring in the same caliber of takes as well. But tell me a bit about your trip that you guys did and sort of where you played. It was a couple months ago now. In fact, I think it was in the depths of winter. But give me a bit of a rundown of that trip.
Yeah, so the trip is always a tricky, well, not a tricky one, but it's lekker. So the idea is that we're trying to pick courses that guys wouldn't ordinarily play. Although we have also done sort of Sun City and courses that people would ordinarily play. But this one we decided to go to Knysna, and that was after we did some serious, almost pulled the trigger on a fan court tour. But the dates didn't work and the costs were pretty intense. It does help that my dad and sister both have guest houses in Knysna and were willing to give us quite substantial discounts on accommodation, which made it easier. So, I mean, the obvious choice of a Knysna and we normally play three rounds, and the obvious choice would be Pezula, Samola, and Knysna. Or if you're not playing Knysna, then when you fly into George, would be to play sort of George or one of the fan court courses. We couldn't play Samola. They were having their spring treatments or their holotaining at the time, so Samola was out. So we ended up playing Sedge Links, which was our sort of opening round. We played it as a foursomes, we played 9 holes foursomes, which was actually flipping fun. And we only had 3 clubs, so you could only take 3 clubs, and you played it as 9-hole foursomes. And that was a bit of an opener. Not all the guys that played the tour could play it, but the Sedge Links was really fun. It was about an hour. We had 8 of us pretty much walking around. Bunch of drinks. Wind was howling. The greens were not in the best of nick. But it's a lekker little fun format. The holes are good fun, challenging. There's a mixture of sort of mostly very short par threes, a couple of par fours, but they par fours that you could hit with a 6-iron depending on the wind direction. But yeah, lots of fun. So we played Sedge Links. Then we played Knysna. The pro at Knysna at the moment was the pro at San Lemire. And he's an absolute legend. And I mean, he's doing big things. He really took San Lemire. I mean, San Lemire was dropping quite substantially. He took San Lemire sort of back to a good place in the rankings. And I think he's brought the similar sort of energy to Knysna. I know they've done a lot of rebunkering. I think they've done some stuff with the greens. And the course is really in good nick. I know they're sorting out the drainage on the 9th as well, which is very similar to the Cotswold 9th, which gets flooded quite a lot. So Knysna was great. I mean, Knysna's a fun layout. It's sort of like on the lagoon by Leisure Isle, which is a sort of island towards the heads. So it's almost tidal T. So it's sort of the intimidation factor changes depending on the tide. If the tide is high, then you can see all the water on the holes, whereas the tide's low, it's just stakes. You see lots of stakes out there.
Yeah.
The greens were fantastic, very receptive, but my goodness, they were quick. Like, I mean, I was used to playing at like Cotswold and VCC, but they were playing like winter Cotswold VCC sort of pace, like really, really quick. And I mean, it got to the stage where I think I must have 3-putted maybe 8 holes. And by that stage, I was like, whatever my read is, I'm just going with the opposite because I got more chance of sinking it. So yeah, the putting absolutely blew my mind. I just couldn't sink a putt there. But the greens were really good.
It's not what you would expect for kind of the middle of winter, hey? To have such quick greens.
Exactly. It's so wet there that you would think that it would be slow and but it was anything but. It was absolutely
It must be
bliss.
draining those greens must drain really well.
But it wasn't dry. That was the thing. Like I couldn't. It was quite difficult to explain like how it could be so wet and so quick at the same time. But it was, and I think maybe that was also scrambling my mind a bit. But the course is in really, really good nick. It's they've redone the clubhouse. There was a big fire there a couple of years ago, but the clubhouse is lacquer.
Do you know what grass they use on those greens by any chance?
Bent, yeah.
Oh, it's bent.
So they're bent greens, yeah.
Well, I mean, that would probably be the only grass that could be quick in the middle of winter like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it was a lacquer round. I mean, the one controversy that we had was that we said because there was an individual that was going through the whole 3 days, we said, look, there's going to be no gimmies throughout. And I think by the 4th hole, we started giving each other like 1-footers. And we were like, nah, it's fine. You can have that.
That's good.
And then at the end, everyone was talking about how they're grinding over the 1-footers and like 2 Oaks missed a 1-footer. And we're like, oh, yeah, we did as well. Yeah, ground over those 1-footers. I think I let the cat out the bag and took a rumbler from the 4-ball for burning everyone there. Yeah, the second course we played then was Plett.
Sorry, I wanted to say I have actually played Knysna. It was quite a long time ago. When I was at university, I played there with my old man. And yeah, I just have like when you're talking about the water hazards and that now, I definitely remember that. I just have really good memories of it. It was a very enjoyable round of golf. Yeah, so I'd love to play it now. I'd love to play it again.
Well, I think it's been some time outside of the top 100 as well. It's back,
it did,
I think, in the 80s. So it's climbed quite nicely, but
it's climbed nicely.
It definitely deserves to be there. It's definitely the club where I think all of the people who live in Knysna are members. So it's sort of like the local Knysna golf club. I mean, if that makes sense. I mean, you've got 3 pretty lacquer golf courses in Knysna, but I would say of all the golfers in Knysna, they're all members at Knysna, and not really Simola and Pezula. Well, I can't really speak for Simola, but I'll get to Pezula shortly. I know we've been there in Christmas, and the members previously get quite stuffy. I know that my brother almost got into a fight in the clubhouse the one time because the one bully told someone, I think he was wearing a hoodie, but like minding his own business, not doing anything outrageous. And the guy said, no, he must get out the clubhouse because he's wearing a hoodie. And my brother almost boxed the oak who asked the oak and the hoodie to get out the clubhouse. He's like, no, man, it's like he's dressed smart. He's not in like a vest or anything. He's in, so I don't know. That was just a little tidbit, but they seem to have relaxed quite a lot. It's Maya. Sorry, he's the new sort of golf ops oak there. Maya was his name. And I think also Maya's bought that, relaxed vibe, pizzas, drink specials. They treated us really, really well at Knysna Golf Club when we were there. So yeah, that was a good first stop. Would lack one. The next one, T, was Plett Country Club. We obviously, I tried to roast Plett a bit in the top 100 pod that we did, particularly for the mat. I can confirm, and I have video footage, that there is a mat on that golf course.
You sent it to us.
But also really, really cool layout. Course was in great nick. A bit wet in places, and also quite a tricky layout, if I do say. Greens were also absolutely blitz for some reason, which again sort of scrambled my mind, because I wasn't expecting in winter, as you say, wet conditions to be playing super quick greens. But yeah, the Plett experience was really lekker as well. I mean, the guys also were very, very welcoming. We played Plett on the Friday. I think there was a couple of good standout holes. The par fives at Plett are really top notch. And obviously there's a par 3 that you play over a graveyard, so that deserves a shout out.
That's so cool.
Quite a tricky par 3 that you play over the graveyard. I think the graveyard is OB, but I think if you're heading into that graveyard, then you've probably topped your shots and you deserve to take a penalty. Have you played Plett?
They should actually keep that graveyard in play and just get people feeling really uncomfortable, tiptoeing around there, trying to hit their second, from having topped a par 3 shot, just for sort of added drama, just really get people feeling uncomfortable.
No, 100%. I felt bad. My one mate was quite a high handicapper and playing the round of his life, but I think missed every single 1-footer he had. He was my partner, and again, I was just looking away. I was like, I can't watch this. This is too much anxiety to watch him try and sink these 1-footers. Because I mean, after we get shats on the day before for giving the 1-footers, I was like, okay, guess we better put these out.
Hitting cups,
and for good reason. I mean, Paul Blake missed a good couple of those.
I think it's on a tour like that. We've done that before as well. It's very important to putt out, it's good for guys to practice that. Tell me, with the mat hole, I heard that there was some talk of them doing quite a big redesign of that hole. Was there any talk of that or any sign of that on the course?
So we did have a caddy that we played with, and he did say that. So the other thing the other defense that hole had was 2 massive, I think they were oak trees.
That's right.
In the fairway, but have both been struck by lightning, so have both died. So it's now these just 2 massive stumps. So what was a very...
Are they stumps? Because your definition of a stump is
well, they don't have any foliage on them.
Tree.
Can I put it that way? They just big blocks of wood in the middle of the fairway.
And tell me, was it 1 bolt of lightning or 2?
That is a good question. I cannot confirm whether it was 1 or 2 bolts.
Okay.
But yeah, look, I mean, they can't obviously push that tee box any further back. I mean, it's in the bush.
They
could.
Stands.
Yeah, they could. Look, the mat was better. The mat was better. They've obviously changed the mat since I last played there. It's a better mat than the last. I mean, you can put a tee in the mat actually at the moment. So, I mean, it's one of those quite thick sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense? Have you played any of those sort of fake grass turf where you can actually put a tee in it?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have.
So it was one of those. So it was better than the last one where you couldn't put a tee down and was basically playing at a driving range. But still, I mean,
they didn't have the little rubber tee there for you last time.
They didn't have that, thankfully.
Because I'd read somewhere that they were getting some consultants in to look at how to redesign that hole, because they
have to figure it out.
Yeah,
it's tough because you come off a par 3.
Out.
You come off a par. Is it the par 3 or the par 4? But I think it would break the flow. I mean, and it's already a short par 4, so It's
Which
not
is
a very,
cool.
it would, it's different. It's quite, I can't imagine how you'd make a par three out of it. And I don't know where you would put a box because it's on the edge of the property. I don't know where you would put a box to make it a par four. So I mean, they'd have to put some sort of a hazard in play where those trees are. That's the sort of the only thing. And perhaps, I saw Hilton did it where they took their trees out that got struck by lightning and made them into dining room tables and sold them for hundreds of thousands of rand. So maybe that's how they raised the funds to put to redesign the hole.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things they need to put out to like as a competition, like put it out in like Golfers Digest or something. Get like some entries in to like make this whole interesting again. All
I
right,
love that
and
idea.
then
Yeah.
and the general vibe in the Plett Golf Club, good.
Yeah, it was a very,
Okay,
very lekker vibe.
okay.
The waiter that we had, or the waiting staff there, were epic. The guys were like properly on it, like running to get your drinks, super attentive. No, they were very, very welcoming. So it was a good vibe at Plett.
Okay, no, it's not a course I've played. So, oh, and then lastly, where was your
Yeah,
final showdown?
so we played the final round on the Saturday morning at Pezula. I love Pezula. Tricky golf course, but surprisingly, I always played well. There's some very interesting holes. I mean, you start off with, I think, the stroke one, which is a par five. So I mean, I don't know how many courses you play where the first hole is the hardest hole in the course and it's a par five, but that's how Pezula starts. Then you get a lot of very short par four, like drivable par fours, interesting par threes, like short and long. I absolutely love Pezula. Unfortunately, they were doing some work on the fringes at the time. So all of the greens had this like white, I don't want to call it like shade clothy sort of cotton stuff over the fringes, sort of stuff that you put over strawberries. Like, I don't know how better to explain it. But
Yeah.
it made so for someone who's like, okay, well, I'm just going to bump and run, or I want to try and putt from just off the fringe, okay, but like best now you try and predict what it's going to do off this like shade cloth. So yeah, someone
It's
with
just
like
you
me,
just got to play it. Just got to play it how you see it. I guess.
well,
You know?
someone like me who battles with the chipping yips at the time and who still is like battling with it. It's like takes putting it from off the green out of your toolbox. It was tough, especially on day 3 of tour where yips
Your
were
hands are
like
shaking.
accentuated exactly. But yeah, it was again. I love Pezula. I think it's tricky visually. I think if you were to plonk it down on a sort of without having to see all the drop offs and the changes in elevations, etc. Visually, I think it makes it more difficult than it is. I don't think it is, and it's also a course that you can play quite conservatively and shoot well. But there are so many inviting tee shots out there, and so many intimidating tee shots that are actually not that intimidating once you get down there. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of Cotswold Downs, which is quite intimidating off the box. But once you've got off the box, it's actually not that tricky. And yeah, like I said, I think the greens surprisingly were quite a lot slower than both Knysna and Plett, which was a welcome relief for me on day 3 of the tour as well. And then interestingly, yeah, the clubhouse, to go back to my point about why I think a lot of the members in Knysna are members at Knysna Golf Club, is because it's a beautiful clubhouse, beautiful layout, lekker, but sort of a very modern open bar. And they did there was another golf tour that was there in the morning, and then it's a Saturday morning, so you'd think that was when all the members were there. I reckon there were maybe 6 guys that were there for the comp prize giving, which they did at about lunchtime. So it was a bit of like a stark scene, if I can put it that way. But yeah, I think that it is a sort of resort, well, not resort, but like a holiday course. So a lot of the guys have holiday property there, rather than it being like a bastion of, the Knysna community. That's where everyone's a member at either like Pezula or Knysna or Samola. Like I think the majority of the guys live in Samola and are members at Samola. But yeah, it looks like most of the guys that they get down there are from tours, etc.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of courses that are in that sort of mold. I've had similar experiences at like I think of like St. Francis Links when we played there. It just like wasn't really any vibe afterwards, like in the bar and that. even at Arabella, when we went, which I'll get onto now, and sure, couple other places, and then you go and play at the like whatever the local courses like St Francis Bay.
Yeah, I
And
imagine St Francis Bay is a vibe at the clubhouse.
Oh my word!
St Francis Bay, it is a vibe at the clubhouse. We were there on like a random Thursday, and it was a vibe.
Yeah, and I mean, we played in a Saturday like comp there, so we played on a proper like members day, and I mean, sure, my goodness, we had to pull the ripcord to like get out of the bar that evening, and it was proper chaos. I mean, it was like just only courts beer and like plastic tablecloths, and it was so lekker. It was really cool, and yeah, at the links, it was like. It almost felt like the barman was like, like trying to like shut the till down, and like, he was disappointed when we like put another order in of drinks because we were like the only guys at the course. So, and then I guess again, in holiday season, those places are just, I guess they're just pumping.
I was going to say, I think in the holidays they pump, and again, like there were two. I mean, the golf tour that was there, it might as well have like, that I don't know if you've watched Shaun of the Dead, but there's a scene where they walk past basically like a mirror image of themselves, like going past each other, where they all say how's it. But it felt like that scene where we saw a tour that was basically like a mirror image of our tour, like a bunch of like hungover oaks that were on the tee times before us, like day 3 of their tour. It's like all of us like tipping their hats to each other, like how's it, yeah, good tour, cool, yeah, good. So I think they gear themselves up to that sort of not gear themselves up to tours, but you know what I mean. Like the guys who play in golf tours are going to get a tea time on a Saturday morning at Pezula, which is lekker. And I mean they were very friendly in the bar. We had our final fines and prize giving at Pezula, so we did decide to move that one down into the change rooms. There wasn't anyone. Surprisingly, we did like an hour fines and no one came into the change room. Thank God. But
that's awesome.
It was great, and probably good for.
It reminds me of like university hockey days, like just taking over the change room for like 3 hours 100%. For a fines meeting.
That's pretty much. And look, it was better than like having our fines while 6-year-olds are trying to eat their toasted cheese and tomato samis on the balcony.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, very very wise decision. You did it while they were trying to take a pee.
But look, I mean, we'll pull into the sort of the logistics and the formats of the tour, I think, in a future part again. But yeah, 3 courses, very 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 well worth your time, and very reasonably priced as well. I mean, considering how much golf costs in Cape Town, and especially Knysna, Plett, Pezula, all great courses to go and play. But
I think worth mentioning that you did travel there in the middle of winter, so
so it is off season.
That may have something to do with the pricing as well.
And by the way, we got 3 days of no wind and sunshine. Like, can you believe it? I think they'd come off like 5 days of rain. We had 3 days of sunshine, which was our tour, and then they went back onto 5 days of rain again. So just got incredibly lucky.
You lucked out big time.
So T, tell me now, you did recently. You did your Cape Town trip. I think on the last pod we chatted. You mentioned that you had managed to top your golf ball into your hoodie at Arabella, and also had a decent round at Clovelly. I've played Clovelly recently. When I say recently, I mean in the last 2 years. But I played Arabella. I think 2017 or 2018. I played Arabella the last time. But give me your impressions. Let's start with Clovelly. What was the impressions there?
Actually, what I wanted to say was, I think this is like the third sort of, I wouldn't call it a tour, but like a trip I've done where, where I've managed to play golf in an interesting place, and I've managed to meet up with a few people and played with different people on different days. And I must say, I'm kind of loving that little hack of going somewhere interesting, even like being on my own and organizing golf with people I knew in the area on the one day and then somebody else on the other day, and playing with someone who knows the golf course well. It was really cool. So I'm definitely going to be using that hack going forward more. Of course, everyone enjoys the sort of golf tour vibe and all the chaos that goes with that, but just if you're trying to explore and really enjoy like new golf courses, it is quite nice to do it on a small scale. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Managed to play golf with two people who I haven't played golf with in probably almost 10 years. The one being my oldest brother, who him and I used to play a hell of a lot of golf together down here in KZN. And he's now based in Cape Town. We managed to play at Arabella, and then at Clovelly I played with an old school friend of mine that I probably haven't seen in like 10 years. So it was a really like a couple of days just playing golf on two new courses and kind of catching up with people. But Clovelly, JDV, it's a place I've definitely wanted to go to for quite a long time. I've heard a lot about it. So there was quite a bit of hype about it. So for people who don't know, it's kind of like a bit of a hidden golf course. You almost can't see it from anywhere unless you actually you don't drive past it, whatever. You literally have to. I mean, I lived in Cape Town for 7 years, and I don't ever remember laying eyes on the golf course. Essentially, it's in like Fishhook, but it's sort of almost up the valley from Fishhook. So there's like a little suburb of Fishhook there called Clovelly, and I mean, it's not a difficult place to find, but it really is quite hidden and awesome location. I'll say that. Like it's tucked in basically in this valley, surrounded by obviously you've got mountains, you've got that cape perspective on like three of your sides, and then you've got kind of distant ocean views from the clubhouse, it's like an old course. I mean, it's famously sort of got deep roots with the Ackerman families, Raymond Ackerman. So his father was actually, I think, either purchased the course when it was like a 9-hole golf course, or he was one of the original founders. I can't remember. And then Raymond Ackerman himself has basically pumped a lot of money into that course. It was essentially they bought the course because they were told they couldn't play golf anywhere else because they were Jewish. So, there's similar stories in other parts of South Africa as well. And they've done a huge amount for the golf course over the years. They've got a whole bunch of foundations that they run development golf and stuff. So it's got a really cool story, and it's got a lot of, you can just tell when you walk in there, it's like got a cool, relaxed vibe, nice members, nice clubhouse. Just you can just tell it's like a real locals course. In fact, my mate who I was playing with said to me that when he was looking around to join a golf course, he went to 2 other golf courses, and he said he felt like they really didn't want to have him there. And when he went to Clovelly, like the GM of the course, like met him like basically in the pro shop and took him for a walk around, and like he said, that's kind of the vibe you get at Clovelly. So, did you say you have played there? Sorry.
Yeah, so I've played Clovelly a couple of times. I mean, I remember there's also quite a big rivalry, I think, between Clovelly and Westlake. So as I understood it, Clovelly was a breakaway from Westlake Golf Club back in the day. But as you said, it was the sort of the Ackermans running it. I know isn't Bobby Locke like a big thing there at Clovelly? It was sort of his home course.
It was. Yeah, it's apparently one of his favorite courses. I think might have been his home course as well.
I'm sure it's one of Gary Player's home courses as well. But
I didn't see Gary there, but I'm sure he played there the day before I was there.
One of Gary Player's played there the day before.
But look, so the course is nestled into this valley, and it's like we played at literally sunrise. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. Like the sun was coming up over the mountains, and there was those clouds that like roll off the peaks of the mountains there. I mean, it's stunning golf. Like in the Western Cape, you get a lot of that, but it really was cool. But what I will say is that like building when they built Clovelly, they definitely had they could have built that golf course almost anywhere and in that area. And the fact that they built it where they did is a little bit puzzling, because there's the most awesome like dune land, like literally across the, what do we call the stream? I think it's called the Silvermine Stream or something from where Clovelly is. Insane like sand dunes and stuff, which I mean nowadays you wouldn't be allowed in there with a toothpick. The tree huggers would be all over you. But back then, you could have easily put a golf course down without too much problems. And I mean, essentially, the large part of the Clovelly course now sits in a floodplain, and they took all the like indigenous vegetation off the course, so it's just got it's basically been built as like a parkland course. And whilst it is like it's scenic, looking up at the mountains, and aesthetically, there's nothing wrong with the parkland course and the layouts and that, but to me, it just doesn't fit the environment that it's in, and it wasn't quite what I was expecting, to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting just a very sort of mellow kind of parklandy vibe, and I know they have serious problems with the flooding there. Like I think the course was closed for like almost 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks now in the crazy winter that Cape Town's just had. You could see remnants of it when I was there. I mean, essentially, I don't think it takes much for that place to flood. And when I say flood, I mean like you can't see anything. It's like there's like maybe 3 or 4 holes that aren't underwater. It's like proper flooding. So that part of it was a bit puzzling for me. And look, what I do understand is happening is that they are trying to get rid of quite a lot of these old, let's call them exotic trees, whether they're old pines or gums or whatever they are. There's a lot of them. In fact, while we were walking around playing, there's a lot of trees that have like big red crosses on them, which are clearly been earmarked to remove. And from what my mate was telling me, they actually have been like propagating indigenous trees up on because they back right up onto the mountain. So they've got a whole, I don't know, nursery or something up there, and they're slowly moving in more, I guess, local indigenous trees, hopefully a bit of fynbos and that.
So is it not going to be parkland anymore? I mean, are they moving away from that? Because as you say, it is like a parkland course within in the sort of mountains.
I don't think they're moving away from its JDV. I think that is what its identity is, and I don't see them changing that dramatically. But from what I understand, they are trying to incorporate a little bit more sort of indigenous vegetation onto the golf course. And there's a couple of holes, and I just got to get my head around these holes now, because we actually played the front 9, the back 9 first. So I think it was the 13th and the 14th hole. Where on the right-hand side of the 13th hole, it's like quite a tight, narrow par 4, but there's sort of like a sand dune that runs down the right-hand side, and that is one of the only places where it's got this awesome like fynbos and stuff growing on the sand dune. And suddenly I was like, when I was playing that hole, I was like, wow, that is so cool, and it actually reminded me of a couple of holes at St. Francis Bay, but I was like, flip, that's lacquer. Where is more of that on the golf course? And then a few holes on the front 9 where you play sort of down the boundary, sort of almost along where the stream kind of river is. Some of those are really, really interesting and nice as well. But yeah, so overall, like it was like as like a parkland type layout, and that, like, I can't fault it. It's not a very long course, so like, and you'll hear why. Like, after getting the shit kicked out of me at Arabella the day before, like, I really enjoyed Clovelly, because it wasn't too penal. There was quite a bit of space. You could have reasonably large misses, and you were always finding a golf ball. Look, you don't want to play there if you hit a right to left shot shape, and it starts becoming a hook. It's a bit of a tough place to play, because pretty much all the trouble's on the left-hand side of the golf course. So it's something to look out for. And it's obviously not a housing estate. So it's for me, that already puts a course like up a rung when it's not a housing estate. The greens were pretty decent considering the season they've just come out of, and they had like a reasonable amount of interest. It's weird, because I often, when I finish playing a course, JDV, and we often have these discussions like between us, like I'll say to you, well, what was your favorite hole? Or, like, I honestly don't really have a hole at Clovelly that I'd be like, that was the like standout hole. You know what I mean? That 13th hole was pretty nice. I quite like the 9th hole, that par 5 that sort of bends around. It's like right at the highest point of the property. That was actually the last hole we played, so that was That was quite cool. And then the 2 holes before that are pretty good. The 3rd and 4th hole were pretty good as well. They kind of run along the stream, but there's it's fun. Like it's nice, and it's a really enjoyable day out. And I would definitely go and play there again. Like cool people, cool vibe. It was just quite peculiar to see like all the super interesting like sand dunes like just adjacent to the course, and I was just like, my brain was going like, wow, like can you imagine like they'd put half the golf course like out there? It would be mental. But that is obviously, back in that day, they were looking to create something probably a bit easier to construct. Back in the day when you were using shovels and that. So, and then the 18th hole. I don't know do you remember the 18th hole, Clovelly?
I do.
So I can't decide whether this hole is like the stupidest hole ever, or whether like I actually kind of weirdly like this hole. Like,
so is the 18th hole the one with the green? It's like a ridiculous like sloped green
slope up to the green.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
is that the 18th or the 9th? Sorry, I'm just maybe I'm getting my lines crossed.
So that's the 18th. Yeah. I actually played it as the 9th, but it's the 18th. It finishes like right below the clubhouse, basically.
Okay, so that's weird, because that's actually the 18th and the 9th at Clovelly are actually quite similar to like maybe this is a terrible take, but the sort of the 18th and the 9th at Plett, which are also like you play these ridiculous like uphill finishing holes.
So the ninth hole at Clovelly, I thought was a really good hole. It's like a par 5 which bends around.
Yes, yes.
You've got OB down the left, and you can take on the green. It's sort of set. It is set up a little bit, but it's not. It's a par 5, so it's not. A lot of guys are laying up, and then it's not awkward. The 18th, it's almost like so bad that it's good territory. It's like I was standing on the tee, and my mate was like, I think I had like a hybrid in my hand, and he said to me, he was like, oof, I don't know if you should hit that. And I was like that's normally that's like my layup club, or like on a par 4. And
what, do you think you're going to go over? Or?
Well, he was like, it's just, there's like, you're bringing this trouble into play, and there's a big bush on the right and whatever. And so like eventually hit like a 6-iron, and like it was perfect, like which is just kind of weird. I actually kind of mishit it. There's this really weird like grass bunker like in the middle of the fairway on the right hand side of the fairway, and it's like doesn't fit in with anything else like on the course, but it's just there and then on the other side of that grass bunker is like a strip of fairway which is about as wide as a cricket pitch. So like, I don't know, I guess if you randomly happen to land up in that, like, so it's kind of like a weird afterthought that they've put this grass bunker in there. And then obviously you're hitting this pretty uphill shot look, I don't mind hitting a shot like where you can't exactly see where your ball's landing. I've got like no problem with that. But there's no like, obviously if you land short of that green, you're just in this like really stiff, like weird, rough. I think you learn quite quickly, the members learn to rather go long of that green. But like I have no idea how like the seniors would play that hole, like because with like low ball flight, I just don't know how they would like get the ball up there. So, but the one cool thing that I really like about the hole is when you stand right on the back of the tee, it's like this dead straight line all the way down the fairway to the pin, and then the clubhouse is like directly in the back, and it actually looks like, I saw a video clip of it after I played. I was looking at some stuff on YouTube. It looks awesome, like because you see the flag, like, and it's just so like I say, I don't really know how I feel about it, but it made me feel something. I'm not sure if it was all good things.
So it's a 260 meter, I'm just looking at it now, 260 meter par 4, where your layup is like 160 meters will get you into the bunker, and it gets
exactly.
It gets tighter and tighter, where it almost like pays off to just take the biggest club in your bag and just like get as far up there as you can, because it's not like the danger's getting, I mean, unless you want to hit like an 8-iron off the box and then like another 8-iron to the green. I mean, that's a safe play, like 8-iron. But I mean, I suppose the other plan is just bang a driver. Like,
Yes, I think I hit like 6-iron, like wedge or gap wedge. I can't remember. I think I hit wedge.
So if you hit like, okay, so I'm just checking here. So I mean, 100. So if you hit 160 meters off the box, you've got 100 meters to the green, which makes sense. I mean, that would be the safe play because as soon as anything over 160 meter, anything left or right, you're in the bunkers, the fairway bunkers. But so then if you like, fuck it, I'm just going to go over these bunkers. then I mean, then you're only worried about the second bunker on the right, or possibly the bunker that you've got the Bryson sort of US Open 60-meter shot to the green. So it almost just pays off just to take a driver, but then there's trees close to the green, so you might like bone yourself with a line. So I don't know. It's quite a provocative hole.
It is. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't like it. It just definitely made me feel something. Like it was quite odd. Like it's which I quite appreciate. You know, like I want to go back and like also there was no wind when we played really. Well, when we played that hole, the wind did pick up on the back nine, but like the southeaster, like I think pumps through that valley, and if memory serves correct, that would be perfectly like crosswind. If the wind was blowing from your right to your left, so yeah, like it probably does change the hole quite dramatically when you've got like a 2-club wind pumping through there or 3-club wind, you know. But it was the one hole maybe I thought I'd had to mention at least to give a shout out. JDV, moving on to Arabella. I think just to say, like, I think it's got to be one of the best like physical locations where a golf course is situated, like anywhere in South Africa. Like if you go and look on Google Earth and have a look where Arabella sits, you know, like not getting into the golf course itself, but like just where it sits on that massive lagoon, which is just wild. And then with kind of mountains essentially on like, I don't know, almost 180 degrees around you. It's a very, very kind of crazy, and it almost feels like quite a wild location for a golf course. Now, with what they've built in terms of everything that isn't the golf course there, it doesn't feel that wild. And I can get into that a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there that I thought it was like, it definitely feels like a very incredible location for a golf course in SA. I haven't been to all of the crazy golf courses we have, but I would say it's got to be in like the top 3 or 4 just wild locations where we have a golf course. So I wanted to throw that out there. That was like my first kind of thought. And I've often thought that when I haven't played there, when I've been driving past, because you see it across, when you're driving to Amanus, you always see Arabella like across that lagoon. Just out of interest, when's the last time you played there?
So sorry, I'm basically making myself seasick here on their website. They've got this like 360 toggle thing that you can do, but if you get it wrong, it just like spins.
Are you still doing a 360 at Clovelly, or have you?
No, I'm onto Arabella
yourself?
Now. So okay. Like I said, I think I played there in 2017, and it was actually quite a funny story because I got there and I was doing another degree at the time while I was working. So I actually had a student card, and it's quite pricey playing golf in Cape Town, especially when you're coming from KZN. So I went there, and I think it's like they wanted to charge us about 1,000 odd rand to pay like fees. And I was like, shit, that is quite hectic. So I said, well, anyway, I've got the student card, like what can you do for me? And they're like, oh no, that's fine. It's like $300. So I was like, sweet. Awesome. Anyway, my brother and my dad forked out the full like 1-2, and needless to say, they made me buy the halfway house after that because they were super bleak that I paid $300 for my round. But also, like had put Arabella, and rightly so, I think, on a bit of a pedestal when I played it. So had bought myself like 3 brand new sleeves of Pro Vs and managed to deposit those into the bush and the water within
not a good
holes.
place to be doing that.
Yeah, definitely easy to lose a golf ball there. Yeah.
It reminds me, sorry, your story of the student card reminds me of when I was doing my postgraduate studies a few years ago in Cape Town. And we would nip down the road to go play at Metropolitan Golf Course. And I had a UCT student card that, you get like I had a student card, like, even though I was like, I'm like 37, and I pulled it out at the Metropolitan Golf Course. I was like, yeah, I'm a student, and like the guy, the guy behind the counter is just like, nah, like, come on.
It's like, you're not feeling me.
He's like, look, I'm going to give you this discount today, but like, this is probably going to be the only time I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, don't try this again.
With like grey hairs coming out, I was like, hey, listen, you can't discriminate. Don't age discriminate. Students are students,
But T, have you changed your mind? Do you believe that Arabella might possibly be able to host an SA Open, or are you still firmly on the block that an SA Open should not go to Arabella?
It should absolutely never go to Arabella. Like, I think I think it's a really good test for professionals, Arabella. So on that sense, it would absolutely be able to host an SA Open. I just do not see any way of like people being able to move around that place. It would be very, very. It's too far. I suppose it's not that far out of Cape Town. I mean, it's reasonably far out of Cape Town. It's about an hour and a half's drive. But yeah, no, I'm still on the block that it should host one.
I hear what you're saying. Like, trying to put infrastructure. I mean, I'm just looking at the 11th hole, which is like one of the signatures. That's that hole you play downhill into the lagoon, essentially, with bunkers around there. I mean, I don't know how you would get these spectators.
The 8th hole.
Is that the 8th?
That's the 8th, yeah.
Oh, sorry, the 8th hole. You're right. The 8th hole.
So anyway, let me get my takes off here. So to me, it had a really good routing of the 9. So you basically play 2 circles, and the front 9 you sort of play clockwise. So you start off going inland, and then you kind of work your way down, and then both 9s finish sort of doing this loop back around, and you sort of finish on the what I would call like the crescendo holes, which is like the 8th, 9th, and then on the back 9 it's like the 16th, 17th, 18th. They all finish on the lagoon. So clever routing. The stretch of holes from like 4 to 9 is possibly one of the best like stretches of 6 holes that like I've ever played. Like 6 holes in a row of like really, really good golf holes. Like, honestly, the 4th hole is like a lot of people would you talk about Arabella, they'll name like 6 or 7 other holes. But we got to the 4th tee, and as I said, I was playing with Duran and Neil, and they both have played Arabella quite a bit. And we were waiting on the tee. There were a couple of slow guys in front of us, and they both said to me, they said, this isn't like, they pointed out the hole. They were like, this is an unbelievable hole. And it's like very sneaky, like little par 4 that has this like slight dog leg to the right. It's like very tight, but it's just, I don't know what it is about it. The green site sort of sits in this like little bowl, and it's kind of surrounded by fynbos. It's totally different to it feels totally different to any of the other par 4s on the golf course. Like, it's very, very cool hole. It's got like banks up on the left, just very cool vegetation, not like an excessive amount of features, but just a very pleasing hole to the eye. And then the 5th hole is like a short par 3, which has got like quite a tricky, it's like downhill, but it's got quite a tricky green. The 6th hole is this like dogleg right, which has got probably the biggest fairway on the whole golf course, which only 1 out of 4 of us managed to hit. Shout out, Neil. But just also a cool hole, different to any of the other holes. And then the 7th hole is like this epic par 3 where you sort of have this distant views of mountains. So you play, you can kind of see the lagoon and the distance on the left-hand side. But when you hit your ball, if you go look on I did a video on our Go Track Instagram of you'll see the guys, their shot traces on that hole, but you've got these distant views of mountains, so your ball just looks like it's like sailing up against these mountains and then drops down to the green. The 8th hole is that like probably their signature hole, which is that like big downhill par 5, which sort of curves to the left at the end with that green like almost out on that like semi-peninsula. And then the 9th hole, which honestly was possibly my favorite hole on the course, was like that drivable par 4 where you've got to like can work out. You can drive it.
Pick how much you want
in the
to bite off, sort of situation.
in the right wind. Like we had a wind which is behind us, basically. Did we? No, sorry, it wasn't. We had an unusual wind. It was southwest, so it wasn't the southeast. It was southwest. So it was kind of cross. It was perfectly cross, and you had to basically start your ball like over the lagoon. I mean, it was so sick. The ball moved like 40 meters in the air, but it was that hole was epic. So the other notes I had, JDV, was like lots of tees, like lots and lots of tee options there, and what I would say is like the guys at the start of the day, Duran said, listen, he recommends we actually play like upper tee here. He said we'll have a much better, enjoyable day out. So we actually played off the blue tees, and I think it was a really good call. I'd hate to know what I would have shot off the.
I was about to say. So we sorry, just quickly, we made that, and such a good point. We made the mistake of playing off the wrong tees when we did a tour last year, and we played Pearl Valley, and there was huge discussions. There was a bit of wind and the rest of it, and we ended up playing Pearl Valley off the one-ups. So essentially the championship tees, and not like the, so what's the equivalent of yellows? Because I don't know, the colors weren't the same as what we have in Natal. And then we were looking at the distances, and we're saying, oh, well, the white tees are equivalent to, the yellow tees are equivalent in distance to what is a Cotswold, but, we didn't take into account elevation changes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was an absolute shit show. Like trying to hit 6 irons into greens where you normally hit 8 irons. And it also like takes choices off the tee box out of your hands, because you got a bank driver, because otherwise you like basically can't reach greens. So I completely vouch for that, especially courses like Arabella and Pearl Valley and Sun City and those sorts of places. You need to pick the right tees if you want to enjoy yourself. And especially with the way that the handicap system works now, if you pick the right tees, you still get the right handicap, you still got the right slope rating. So I couldn't agree with that. Take more tee at these, especially these championship golf courses. It's a huge thing.
If you're a sort of a 5 or better handicap, then I think the white tees obviously. But like if it's the first time you're going to Arabella, like and you're like playing off something a bit higher than 5 and more, like just play off the blue tees. Like you'll have a much better day. And they've got tons of tee options. They obviously move the tees around a lot. So and then. Obviously then the conditioning is like it's what you'd expect from a course that's in like the top. There's probably 15 courses in South Africa that have conditioning like this, and it didn't disappoint. Like we obviously they had done spring treatment like 2 weeks before we played, so which we did know about, but honestly, like, so the greens were a little sandy, and like the guys said that they were a lot slower than they normally are, but I mean, otherwise, everything else was like basically an immaculate conditioning. So like that sort of stuff I can't fault. Like, so the other notes I had is like standing on the ninth tee, like the 9, 17 and 18, like standing on those tees in like the wind that we were playing it in, which was like basically directly across, like pretty decent wind. She's like, I can't think of too many other places in SA where you're playing on like such, like you felt very exposed out there. Like when you're out on that lagoon, the wind coming off there is like, it's a different like force of wind, if you know what I mean. Like it's, you feel properly exposed. So it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. Like you feel like you're very sort of close to the elements out there on those tee boxes in particular. Just my sort of bad notes, JDV, is I feel like a lot of the holes on that golf course have got, and this is like, I think a bit of a Peter Makovich thing, and particularly back in that era, like in the 90s when he built a lot of these courses. And I know some of his design has changed a bit since then, but there are a lot of holes where you've got that like extreme like narrowing of the fairway. So it's like and look, some people will say, well, that's brilliant because it's making you think about, whether you should be hitting driver or like laying back of the bunkers. But on a lot of the holes, you have that like pinching of the fairway with like 2 bunkers where it just punches in at like 250 or 260. And that's fine, like for a couple of holes here and there, but it felt like quite a repetitive kind of theme. And then just generally there's some like really odd bunkering around that golf course. Like like if you look at that 8th hole, I mean, you're on Google, probably on Google Earth now, but like it's just like weird. Like there's a weird like bunker right in front of that 8th green, like where you think about it, it's par 5. Now, I think you've got a big bunker on the left, you've got a bunker on the right, there's water on the right, and then there's this like literally like round bunker, like where you may like be running up like a 3-wood or something, you know. It just looks odd. Like it just looks weird. And in a few other places I noticed where I was like, it's like there's almost too many bunkers here. And they've like just popped bunkers in some places for like kind of no reasons. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of courses where you're standing in the tee box and there's just like a bunker left and a bunker right, and like that's kind of the hole, you know. I kind of like a course where if I'm going to hit down the right hand side of the fairway and there's a bunker on the right hand side of the fairway, then there must be like a reward for basically going down closer to the bunker. But if you've got one on the left and one on the right, so like, you know, there didn't feel like there was a huge amount of like strategic decisions that you had to make out there outside of like, am I going to see if I can possibly fly over this like pinched bunker area, or am I just going to lay back with like, you know, an iron? There was also a couple of holes where the safe area to hit on the fairway actually like almost gave you like it actually felt like the best place to hit. It was like almost like a better angle to the green, which it should actually be the opposite. Like you should actually have a worse angle into a green from like a safe fairway shot. So
Yeah.
just one or two spots that was just a bit odd. And then I reckon if we let Guy Smith loose on some of those bunkers, he would change the aesthetic completely. JDV, get some of that grass,
too manicured.
get some of that. Yeah, just they need. It's like this elemental place, you know. You're on the lagoon, you got all this wind, you know. Just like let's get a bit of grass growing around the bunkers. It's a little bit too manicured, you know. Didn't quite fit in with the aesthetic of the lagoon. Obviously, it's on a housing estate, so like, I mean, flip. I was thinking about this today, JDV. I almost think we need to have like two separate like golf rankings in South Africa. We need to have like our housing estate golf ranking, and then our non-estate ranking. Look, the one thing I will say is that there's pretty decent buffers between the holes and where the houses are. So they've got quite big strips of like fynbos that grow. And I must say, like when we were there now, it's like spring basically. The fynbos was like in flower. It was unbelievable. Like it looked incredible. But you are still like at the end of the day, you can't get away from the fact that you're playing in between houses. And then just my last point is just like there's no escaping that this is a Southern Sun like property. Like when you arrive at like you go into the hotel, and then when you're catching an elevator down to the pro shop, that you're like, okay, I've seen this before, and it was when I went to Sun City. You know, everything looks a little kind of 90s. If I'm not mistaken, they have like quite a few fake rocks and like a fake rock waterfall that goes into the swimming pool.
Okay.
And the hotel is a bit of a behemoth.
It's a beast. It is a beast that sits. I mean, if you even look at any of the photos, you can see it sort of curving around.
Standing on that 18th tee box, I was like, this should be a really awesome golf hole. This is like beautiful. We're next to a lagoon or whatever, and you basically hit towards this like behemoth of a hotel. And I was
But I think the premium there, Terence, is on the view that the hotel guests have, not the golfers.
Of course, we can't take that away from them. You know? So yeah, man. You know what? I really enjoyed. I played like an absolute dog at Arabella, but I thoroughly enjoyed the experience and would like to go back. Probably won't be buying a sleeve of balls in the pro shop like
Don't do what I did. Basically, whatever money I saved in getting the student rates, I paid in Pro V1 sacrifices in that golf course.
And listen, guys were swiping in that pro shop. Eh? I reckon that place does some tin there, because there were a lot of foreigners there. You know, maybe guys who aren't they're on holiday and they don't have any golf kit with them. Oaks are buying the shirts, the hats, the shoes, renting clubs. I mean, that I'm going to throw it out there and say I reckon that place is probably top 3 turnover of a pro shop. Oaks like the lady we were almost embarrassed by like what we were paying for, a couple of wooden tees and
sorry,
our round.
can I get some secondhand golf balls here? The Oaks in front of you is just basically. Sorry, do you have any? These secondhand golf balls are a bit expensive. Where's like your third-hand golf balls? So like 100 pack that you can get.
Yeah. Anyway, man. Yes, it was a good couple of days down there, and I look forward to playing both those courses again. JDV, yes, we were aiming for half an hour. That's blown way past that. We could be in PB territory here. We're going towards the SA Top 100 territory here.
Let's tap it out. Otherwise, we're going to have to have the debate about whether we split it into 2 podcasts or not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, I did want to say to people who are listening, thanks to everyone for listening to the Go Track. You can see we've been avidly at work trying to get more podcasts out more regularly. So, and thanks to Tucky for interviewing Jono Broomhead last week. It was an enjoyable podcast. But guys, please do go and possibly write us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It does help with whatever the algorithms and all of that, and or even if you just rate the podcast, and that'd be awesome. JDV, I was looking, just a quick breakdown of the top 7 countries where our podcast is listened to outside of South Africa. Can I run you through those quickly?
Please.
Okay, we've got the UK. We've got Eswatini coming in 3rd.
Yeah.
Well, actually, sorry, this is not 100% accurate. This is just for this month. In fact, let me do the last 3 months. In 4th place, JDV, we have China.
Couple of bots.
Well, that's what I thought as well. So what I wanted to say was, if you're listening to the Go Track in China, please send us a message on Instagram and let us know.
Are you sure it wasn't the Oaks and Arabella that were kitting themselves out?
That's a very good point. It could have been. And then the 2 other ones that I wanted to give a shout out to was Tanzania and Poland. So
Poland or Poland?
Yeah, that sounded weird. That didn't sound right. So. Definitely Poland. I think the bourbon cask is fully kicked in. But yeah, listen, guys, if you're a listener from Tanzania and Poland or China, please drop us a message. We've also got, you can email us on thegoat.trackza@gmail.com or just DM us on Instagram. Tell us what you're doing in China, Tanzania, or Poland. Tell us about possibly maybe some of the golf that you're playing in those places. But it would be very interesting to hear from those people. So anyway, with that, JDV, thank you. We're going to sign off on this very short podcast that we just thought we would nip down. This is what happens when we don't have a firm agenda.
Yeah.
But have a lucky evening, man. And cheers, everyone.